First contact and mockery. The Zelathi Empire's massive dreadnought descended through Earth's atmosphere like a chrome teardrop falling from heaven. Its surface rippled with energy shields that bent light itself, creating an aurora of impossible colors that danced across the morning sky above Geneva. Inside the United Nations Emergency Assembly Hall, world leaders watched the live feed in stunned silence as the alien vessel, larger than 3 aircraft carriers combined, settled into a hover position exactly 1 kilometer above the city. General Marcus Chen stood beside President Sarah Martinez, his weathered face betraying no emotion as he studied the tactical displays. 20 years of military service had taught him to recognize threats, and every instinct screamed that humanity faced its greatest challenge. The readings from their instruments showed energy signatures that defied their understanding of physics. Whatever powered that ship could probably vaporize half of Europe if its operators wished. The first communication came through every electronic device on Earth simultaneously. The voice spoke perfect English, though it carried an undertone that made human ears ache slightly. Inhabitants of Earth, I am Ambassador Vextor of the Zelathi Empire. We have observed your species for several rotations of your star. You have reached the minimum threshold of civilization required for incorporation into our empire. Rejoice, for you shall serve a greater purpose. President Martinez exchanged glances with her counterparts from Russia, China, and the European Union. They had rehearsed first contact scenarios countless times, but nothing had prepared them for such immediate demands of servitude. She activated the response channel that their scientists had isolated. Ambassador Vextor, I am President Sarah Martinez, speaking on behalf of the United Nations of Earth. We welcome peaceful contact with your species and look forward to mutual cooperation and cultural exchange. The laughter that followed chilled every human who heard it. The sound resembled breaking glass mixed with static, lasting for precisely 7 seconds before Vextor spoke again. Cooperation? Cultural exchange? Small mammal, you misunderstand your position. The Zelathi Empire does not negotiate with species that still propel metal chunks with chemical explosions. Your weapons are museum pieces to us. Your fastest spacecraft would take millennia to reach our nearest outpost. You have nothing to exchange and nothing to offer except obedience. General Chen's jaw tightened, but he remained silent as the president continued. Perhaps we could arrange a meeting to discuss this further. Humanity values its independence highly, and I'm certain we can find mutually beneficial arrangements that don't require subjugation. Very well, Vextor replied, amusement coloring his tone. Send your delegation to these coordinates. You may bring your primitive weapons if it makes you feel secure. They cannot penetrate even our most basic defensive shields. We shall demonstrate the futility of resistance, and then you will kneel. The meeting took place 6 hours later in an abandoned airport hangar outside Geneva. The human delegation consisted of 30 individuals, including President Martinez, General Chen, and representatives from major world powers. They were accompanied by a full platoon of Special Forces soldiers, armed with the latest military hardware humanity possessed. The soldiers knew their weapons were supposedly useless, but their presence provided psychological comfort. The Zelathi delegation materialized in the center of the hangar through some form of teleportation technology. 5 beings stood before them, each roughly 3 meters tall with elongated limbs and skin that seemed to shift between purple and blue, depending on the angle of view. Their faces were vaguely humanoid but stretched, with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. They wore form-fitting suits that glowed with the same energy signatures as their ship's shields. Ambassador Vextor stepped forward, his movements fluid and somehow wrong to human eyes, as if he existed slightly out of phase with normal space. Greetings, primitive mammals. I have come to accept your surrender personally. Our scans indicate you have brought your most advanced warriors and weapons. How quaint. President Martinez stood firm despite every instinct telling her to step back. Ambassador, humanity has survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars. We've split the atom and walked on our moon. We may be primitive by your standards, but we are not slaves. We offer friendship, trade, and peaceful coexistence. We do not offer submission. Vextor's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture that might have been surprise. You would refuse the protection of the Zelathi Empire? Do you not understand that resistance means annihilation? We have conquered 1,700 systems. Species far more advanced than yours have tried to resist. They are now either servants or extinct. Then I suppose we'll be the first to succeed, General Chen said, speaking for the first time. His voice carried the weight of absolute conviction. The Zilathi delegation exchanged looks that might have been amusement. One of them, slightly shorter than Vextor, stepped forward and spoke in a higher-pitched voice. Commander Krillek's military advisor. General Chen, your courage is admirable but misguided. Allow me to demonstrate. The alien touched a device on his wrist and a shimmering bubble of energy surrounded him. This is a standard personal shield, the same technology that protects our ships and soldiers. Fire your weapons. Use your most powerful ammunition. I will stand still. General Chen nodded to Sergeant Lisa Thompson, one of their best marksmen. She raised her rifle, an advanced electromagnetic railgun that could punch through tank armor. The weapon hummed as it charged, then released its projectile with a crack that echoed through the hangar. The tungsten round, traveling at Mach 7, struck the shield and simply disappeared, converted to harmless light and heat that dissipated instantly. Again, Krillek said, spreading his arms wide. Thompson fired 3 more rounds in rapid succession. Then the other soldiers joined in, filling the hangar with the roar of gunfire. Conventional bullets, armor-piercing rounds, incendiary ammunition, even a rocket-propelled grenade all met the same fate. The shield flickered prettily with each impact, but Krillek's didn't even sway. When the demonstration ended, smoke filled the hangar and spent casings littered the floor. Krillek's remained unharmed, his shield not even warm to his touch. As you see, the technological gap between us is insurmountable. Your chemical-propelled projectiles operate on principles we abandoned before your species discovered fire. Surrender now and we will be merciful. Resist and we will take your planet anyway, but only after reducing your population to manageable numbers. President Martinez looked at the spent ammunition on the floor, then at her military advisor. General Chen's expression remained neutral, but she caught something in his eyes, a glimmer of thought that the aliens might have missed. He stepped forward, addressing Vextor directly. We need time to discuss this with our people. Surely the mighty Zilathi Empire can grant us 24 hours to prepare for such a monumental change. Vextor's laugh returned, that sound of breaking glass. Very well. You have 1 rotation of your planet. When we return, you will either kneel or burn. Choose wisely, mammals. The Zilathi delegation vanished in a flash of light, leaving the humans alone in the smoke-filled hangar. As soon as they were gone, General Chen turned to his team. Thompson, what was the shield's response time to each impact? The sergeant pulled out her tactical tablet, reviewing the high-speed footage. Sir, there's a delay. Microscopic, but it's there. About 3 milliseconds between impact and energy conversion. And did you notice the color variation? Dr. James Wright, their chief physicist, interjected excitedly. The shield frequency shifted slightly with each hit. If we could calculate the harmonic frequency, we might be able to match it. General Chen smiled for the first time since the aliens had arrived. They think our weapons are primitive because they use chemical propulsion. They're protecting against energy transfer, converting kinetic energy to heat and light. But what if we overload their conversion capacity? What if we hit them with so much kinetic energy, so quickly that their shields can't process it all? President Martinez understood immediately. They expect us to fight like we're attacking a fortress with big, powerful individual strikes. But what if we fight like we're attacking a swarm? Exactly, Chen confirmed. Get me every military engineer and physicist we have. We have 20 hours to figure out how to break their shields and 4 hours to implement it globally, and contact every ammunition manufacturer on the planet. We're going to need bullets, billions of them. As the human delegation dispersed to prepare for what might be humanity's last stand, none of them noticed the small drone that had recorded everything from a corner of the hangar. In his ship, Ambassador Vextor reviewed the footage with his command staff. They still plan to resist, Krillek observed. Should we simply eliminate them now? No, Vextor decided. Let them try. It will serve as an excellent demonstration for other primitive worlds. When Earth falls, despite their desperate preparations, others will understand the futility of resistance. Besides, I'm curious to see what they attempt with their Stone Age weapons. It should be amusing. The ambassador's 4 eyes gleamed with anticipation as he looked down at Earth through his view screen. In 20 hours, the primitive mammals would learn their place in the galactic order. Their chemical weapons and metal projectiles would shatter uselessly against Zilathi shields, just as they had for 1,700 worlds before them. The Empire would grow and Earth would serve. What Vextor didn't know was that in workshops, factories, and military bases across Earth, Humanity was preparing something the Zelathi Empire had never encountered. Not bigger weapons or more powerful explosives, but something far simpler and more devastating. They were preparing to show the galaxy what happened when you gave humans a problem to solve, and 20 hours to solve it. The shattering of arrogance. The morning sun cast long shadows across Denver as the Zelathi assault force descended from the stratosphere. They had chosen the mile-high city as their demonstration point, calculating that its central location would allow maximum visibility of humanity's defeat. 50 assault craft, each carrying 100 Zelathi warriors, arranged themselves in a perfect geometric pattern above the evacuated downtown district. The mothership remained in orbit, its weapons trained on major population centers as insurance against nuclear retaliation. General Chen stood in the command bunker buried deep beneath Cheyenne Mountain, watching the deployment through satellite feeds. Around him, military personnel from 12 nations coordinated what they had dubbed Operation Stonebreaker. President Martinez was secure in another location, maintaining communication with world leaders who were all watching the same feeds. Humanity had used its 20 hours well. All units report ready, Colonel Park announced from his station. Ammunition distribution complete. We have 17 million rounds in the immediate combat zone, with reinforcement supplies staged at intervals. Dr. Wright looked up from his calculations one final time. The harmonic frequency generators are in place. We'll have a 3-second window when we activate them. If this doesn't work, it will work, Chen said firmly. It has to. On the streets of Denver, Sergeant Thompson lay prone on a rooftop, her rifle trained on the descending craft. Around her, 3,000 soldiers were similarly positioned, each with specific targeting instructions. But the real surprise wasn't the soldiers. Throughout the city, civilians had refused evacuation orders. Instead, they had armed themselves with everything from hunting rifles to modified nail guns. The Zelathi expected to face Earth's military. They were about to face Earth's population. Ambassador Vextor's voice echoed across the city through their translation technology. Humans of Earth, your time has expired. We offer one final opportunity for peaceful surrender. Lay down your primitive weapons and accept your place in the Zelathi Empire. You have 60 seconds to comply. General Chen activated his microphone, broadcasting on all frequencies. Ambassador Vextor, Earth has made its decision. We choose freedom. If you want our planet, come and take it. The laughter that followed shook windows throughout Denver. So be it, Commander Krillex, begin the demonstration. Show them the price of defiance. The assault craft opened their bay doors, and Zelathi warriors descended on streams of light. They wore powered armor that made them even more imposing. Standing 4 meters tall with shields that glowed like miniature suns, they landed in formation. 5,000 alien soldiers arranged in perfect lines, their energy weapons charging with ominous hums. Krillex himself stood at the front, his shield blazing brighter than the others. Warriors of Earth, I salute your courage. It will be remembered in the historical records as the most futile last stand in galactic history. Open fire with your chemical weapons. We shall not move until you have exhausted your ammunition. General Chen smiled grimly. All units execute Stonebreaker. Fire pattern Alpha. Now. What happened next would be studied by military historians for generations. Every human weapon in Denver opened fire simultaneously, but not in the way the Zelathi expected. Instead of concentrated fire on individual targets, the humans created a devastating crossfire pattern. Each shield was struck by dozens of rounds per second from multiple angles. The 3,000 military rifles were joined by 20,000 civilian weapons, creating a storm of metal that turned the air itself gray with projectiles. The Zelathi warriors stood firm, their shields handling the initial barrage exactly as designed. Energy cascaded across the protective barriers in beautiful patterns of converted kinetic force. Vextor, watching from orbit, began to compose his victory speech. Then Dr. Wright activated the harmonic frequency generators. The devices, hastily built from modified industrial equipment, sent out a pulse that matched the resonance frequency of the Zelathi shields. For exactly 3 seconds, the shield's efficiency dropped by 12%. It wasn't much, barely noticeable under normal circumstances. But these weren't normal circumstances. Pattern Beta now, Chen commanded. The second wave focused on the warriors whose shields flickered during the harmonic pulse. Thompson's rifle spat tungsten rounds at a rate that would have melted a lesser weapon's barrel. Around her, every human fighter switched to fully automatic fire, emptying magazine after magazine in a continuous stream. The ammunition they had stockpiled began flowing through weapons at an unprecedented rate. Krillix was the first to notice something wrong. His shield, struck by over 300 rounds per second, began showing a telltale orange glow. The energy conversion system was working at maximum capacity, struggling to dissipate the incredible kinetic load. "Impossible," he muttered, checking his readings. "They're using the same primitive projectiles." But they weren't using them the same way. The humans had realized something the Zelathi hadn't considered in 1700 conquests. The shields were designed to stop powerful attacks, converting large amounts of energy efficiently. They had never been tested against sustained bombardment of smaller projectiles. It was like designing a dam to hold back a river but being hit by a trillion raindrops instead. Private Jackson, a reserve soldier who had been a physics teacher just 2 days ago, was the first to see a shield fail. The warrior in his sector suddenly flickered, the protective barrier guttering like a candle in wind. "Shield down, Sector 7. He shouted into his radio, continuing to fire. The warrior, suddenly vulnerable, tried to retreat but found himself in a killing field. Rounds that would have been harmlessly converted now struck his armor. And while it was strong, it wasn't invulnerable. The first bullet cracked the chest plate. The 100th shattered it. "Impossible," Vextor screamed from orbit, watching his warrior's biosigns flicker and die. "Increase shield power. Maximum output." But increasing power made the problem worse. The shields, now running hotter, took longer to dissipate energy. The orange glow spread from one warrior to another as their overtaxed systems began cascade failures. In the bunker, Dr. Wright watched his instruments with growing excitement. "General, it's working." "Their shields are failing across the board." Chen nodded, his voice calm despite the adrenaline surging through him. "All units pattern Gamma. Concentrate fire on failing shields. Civilian units maintain suppression fire." The battlefield transformed into controlled chaos. Zelathi warriors, trained for energy weapon combat against technologically advanced species, found themselves unable to adapt to the primitive but overwhelming assault. They tried to return fire, their plasma weapons carving gouges in buildings and streets. But the humans had learned from the first demonstration. They stayed mobile, using cover, never remaining in one place long enough to be targeted. Krillix's shield failed catastrophically, the overloaded generator exploding in a shower of exotic particles. He stood exposed for exactly 1 second before a wall of lead and tungsten found him. His last thought, transmitted through his neural link to Vextor, was one of disbelief. They had been defeated by chemical propulsion and metal chunks. In orbit, Ambassador Vextor watched his invasion force crumble. 1700 conquests, and they were being defeated by a species that hadn't even achieved faster than light travel. His 4 eyes blazed with rage as he turned to his weapons officer. "Prepare bombardment sequence. If we cannot have this world, we will destroy it." But General Chen had anticipated this. "Now, Dr. Wright." Around the world, humanity's surprises continued. Every radio telescope, every satellite dish, every transmitter capable of generating electromagnetic radiation focused on the Zelathi mothership. They bombarded it with precisely calibrated frequencies, not to damage it but to overload its sensors. For crucial seconds, the alien vessel was blind. In those seconds, humanity's entire nuclear arsenal, which the Zelathi believed exhausted in their initial attack, launched from hidden silos. But these weren't aimed at the ship's shields. They were aimed at the space around it, creating a cloud of superheated plasma and electromagnetic interference that effectively trapped the vessel. "Ambassador," his navigation officer reported frantically. "We're blind. Systems are overloaded. We need to retreat above the interference layer." Vextor's composure finally cracked. "Retreat? The Zelathi Empire does not retreat from primitives." On the ground in Denver, the last Zelathi warrior fell, 5,000 of the Empire's finest. Defeated by bullets and determination, Sergeant Thompson stood up from her position, her rifle barrel glowing red from sustained fire. Around her, humans began to cheer, but General Chen's voice cut through the celebration. "This isn't over. All units prepare for Phase 2. They still have the high ground." But something unexpected happened. The Zelathi mothership, instead of bombarding Earth or retreating, sent out a new transmission. The voice wasn't Vextor's but came from someone identifying themselves as Subcommander Yarix. "Humans of Earth," the voice said. lacking the condescension they had grown accustomed to. Ambassador Vextor has been relieved of command. The Zalathi Empire acknowledges Earth's successful defense against our invasion force. You have achieved something no species has accomplished in our recorded history. You have defeated Zalathi shields with projectile weapons. President Martinez responded from her secure location. Does this mean you're withdrawing? More than that, Yarix replied. The Zalathi Empire recognizes Earth as a defended world. By our own laws, a species that successfully repels an imperial invasion force cannot be conquered, only negotiated with as equals. You have earned something invaluable, humans. You have earned respect. The transmission continued. We would like to understand how you defeated our technology. In return, we offer knowledge, trade, and a warning. We are not the only empire among the stars, and some are far less honorable than the Zalathi. Your primitive weapons have proven surprisingly effective, but you will need allies for what comes next. General Chen looked at President Martinez's image on his screen. She nodded slowly. Sub-Commander Yarix, Earth is willing to discuss terms. But understand this. We are not subjects, not servants, and never slaves. We are humans. We adapt, we overcome, and as you've learned today, we excel at finding weakness and strength. Indeed, Yarix agreed, and for the first time, an alien voice carried something like admiration. The galaxy has much to learn from you, humans. Your primitive weapons have shattered more than our shields. They have shattered our arrogance. We look forward to learning what else you might teach us. As the Zalathi ship withdrew to a respectful distance to await diplomatic negotiations, General Chen finally allowed himself to relax. Around the world, humanity celebrated not just survival but something greater. They had proven that advanced technology wasn't everything, that innovation and determination could overcome seemingly impossible odds. Dr. Wright summed it up best as he looked at the data from their victory. They called our weapons primitive, Stone Age even. But we just proved that sometimes, a stone is exactly what you need to shatter glass. In the aftermath, as humanity took its first steps onto the galactic stage, one fact became known throughout the civilized galaxy. Earth was protected not by energy shields or plasma weapons, but by the unbreakable will of a species that refused to kneel. The humans and their Stone Age weapons had earned their place among the stars, and the universe would never be the same.